Hi guys, so I was going to show you the full build on the Huey head, but I don't have any more of the stanchion, the support here. So I'm just going to show you on this one that I have mostly built, but it's what I've done thus far is going to be really easy for you to look at, just figure out, okay? So here we have three pieces. We have three basic pieces. We have the head itself, we have the support for the head, and then we have the screw. And I've already put the connector in here and glued the connector in. But we're gonna take it just like we would have done this with it all apart. So let's start by looking at our base. So here's our base, right? Now what we're gonna need to do for the base is we're gonna need to make sure that our connector inside the head lines up with our base. That's gonna be pretty important. So we're gonna take these connectors, and the part number on this is MD-80. This is an MD-80 8-pin mini DIN connector. And so we're going to take it apart so that we can put our pins on it. And so what we're going to do is we're going to take lengths of wire, take 6 inches of wire, 8 inches of wire, because this is just going to come out the top here. We'll worry about trimming this and putting connectors on it later, but we're going to have it come up through the end of the connector. And then we're going to do just like we did on the mini DIN, the female mini DIN in here. We're going to make our connectors. They're going to push on. Now this is a much tighter fit. This is where I think that the smaller diameter heat shrink is going to be a better idea. And we're going to get the smaller diameter heat shrink. We're going to put it on there, and then we're going to put our 8 pins. We're going to follow our wiring diagram. All right, so just remember where the wires came out from there, because I know y'all committed that to memory. So there should be a help to see which way they come up. Okay. So we're going to put our 8 wires on here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then we're going to take and we're going to close this thing back up. And I can do this. Yeah, here we go. It only goes on one way. There we go. That goes over here. And this side goes over here. And then the plastic piece, we're going to be reusing that too. And that goes on like that. And like this. So you're going to have this piece here with the 8 wires coming up. And what we're going to do is we're going to take and we're going to push it firmly into the base. We're going to snap it. You see it just snap in there? It's going to snap into place. Now it's snapped into place. Now what we're going to do, because we want the alignment to be correct, right? This is all, imagine the bolts are already in there. This is all together. You've already verified that this is working. We've put a meter on this, and we've checked our wires. We've checked for continuity. We've checked for resistance at the potentiometer. We've moved the potentiometer and make sure that the resistance between the blue wire and the brown wire, or the blue wire and the orange wire, is changing. Right? We want to make sure we want to check it against the blue wire, and we want to check it against the yellow wire. There's 2 signal wires. We want to check against the blue wire and the yellow wire to make sure we don't have any problems. We also want to take and touch the wires to this metal pole and make sure that we don't have any cross feed in here. All right? And you really only have to worry about the potentiometer wires, because the USB wires were all cased. They're all cased, so it's not a problem. So now I have this with my 8 wires coming out. And this is where we have to use our imagination a little bit. So I have not, at this point, secured the head to the support. Or I may have. It doesn't really matter. But I have to make sure that before I glue this down And you can skip gluing it down. You can put it in and just use the one bolt. The bolt comes all the way through to the end here. So I'm going to put that bolt in. It's going to stick out a little bit. And then I'm going to take a file and I'm going to file that bolt down here, right? Okay, we got to file the back and the bottom side of this. We're going to lubricate the bolt before we put in so we don't screw up the plastic and it doesn't get stuck halfway. And then I'm going to file this down so it's flat up against this surface here. And then I glue mine because I noticed when I was pushing the switches that there was a little bit of lift. Doubtful that it would have come apart, but I was like, I'm just going to glue it. So I super glued it down. I got the bolt started. I actually ran the bolt through, took the bolt back out because I wanted to make sure everything was threaded right. Then I put super glue on it, and then I just buzzed the bolt back down into place. And then I let that pull tight. Make sure you get the nut on there before you glue it down. Okay. Make sure that the nut threads on here onto your support here before you glue it all together. Because if there's a problem with your threads in here and you glue all this together, well, then throw this away and start again. So let's not do that. So now I'm going to take and I'm going to glue this. I'm going to glue this connector here. I'm going to put glue around the outside edge. I'm going to put glue in the hole in here where it goes in. And then I'm going to take and I'm going to put the head on, which is then going to push the connector. So I'm actually going to slide this on here like that, and I'm going to push that connector on, and I'm going to thread that puppy down like that. I'm going to thread that down. No, secure. We want to get it secure. Oh, right. Now I have the thing bolted down. Okay, so I'm going to tighten that down, and then I'm going to push the connector down in there, and then I'm going to walk away from it. I'm going to walk away from it. I'm going to let that glue dry on that connector because I want that connector to stay. I don't want it to move as I'm taking stuff on and off here. Okay. So once the glue is dried, this is what you're going to end up with right here. So we have our head, we have our stanchion, we have a nut that works, we have our connector that's now not going to move. We have our bolt that holds it all together that we filed through here, and then we have our 8 wires color-coded that match our wiring diagram. And now it's just a matter of putting switches in here. And I'm going to go grab the switches that this takes because I want to make sure I tell you the right ones that go into the hole. So I'm going to put you on pause here for a second. I want to grab those switches. Well, actually, it'd just be easier to take the head off of mine. It's a little dusty. It's been sitting there for a little while. All right, so our switches are, let's see, this is spring-loaded, 2 different directions. This one is 3 directions, 3 positions, not spring-loaded. This one is on and off. This one is 3 positions, not spring-loaded. I think that this one should be, though, because you can actually change how far the landing light extends. So you can actually direct it. So I think what I would do is I would go ahead and get another spring-loaded one here, which will then allow you to just push it up a little bit or push it down a little bit and move that landing light incrementally for you. So that's an idea. And then we have 1 single push button here. Those are switches. Now, originally my hat switch, I did a hat switch here, right? And I made the hat switch. I made this hat switch with four. I actually took somebody else's design and then I tightened it up. The action wasn't tight enough. And so I made the action tighter, and then I made another one that was a 5-position switch where you could actually do all 4 positions and then push down on it. And this is kind of a bulky piece of equipment right here. And there's a lot of soldering going in because it's a micro switch. You have 4 micro switches in the 4-way and then one in the bottom for the 5-way. And and then it screws into the top, and it's a bulky thing sitting up in here. And I thought, hey, I was looking for switches, 5-way. I needed 5-way switches for this, for the Kiowa head. And so what I ended up doing, I ended up finding these switches here. And these are actually 5-way switches. And I redesigned the head. So then I did a redesign when I after I did like 3 or 4 of these, I did a redesign on this and set it up so this switch will pop right down in there with a little bit of hot glue or super glue, whichever you prefer. I use hot glue. So I would glue that into place there, and then I can use my terminals, my wire terminals, just like we did on everything else. Pull that one out of there. Do my wire terminals, and they'll actually fit down on there, and I can make these. I can make these 4 position switches, these hat switches, and you can, even if you want to, you can wire up the 5th position. You can do a push because it is a 5-way switch, or you can leave that one undone. And so that's what we've done there, is I've changed it over that type of switch. And then, so depending on what you're going to do. Now, the way I printed this out, the first one I did, the first collective I did off of a design on Thingiverse. And it was big and it was heavy, and I wanted something to be a little more, a little bit tighter, because I wanted it to fit, like I said earlier on, that I needed it to fit between my throttle and my seat. So this is actually done in 3 pieces. We have the head done, and I had a faceplate on the original one. Now, using this type of switch, this hole here for the faceplate would of course need to be smaller. But what happened was I caught the edge, the corner of one of these, and broke it. I was like, oh, that sucks. How am I gonna fix that? Well, then I started doing a little beauty ring with a lip around the edge, so that this piece here fits right inside of it. You know, I take some black marker, and I put black marker around the outside edge. You know, just some indelible ink, Sharpie, and I Sharpie around the edge. And then I take and I spray it with a matte finish photograph protector that I got from Michael's. It's just a clear matte polyurethane, and painted it over, because this plastic that I use, it's a 2-color plastic, the black on white, and I laser it. It was easy to scratch, so it would scratch easy, and I was like, ah, it sucks. So I used the protectant on it. If you don't have a laser, which you might not, or a CNC to cut this out, which you might not, you can take a sticker. You can take sticker paper. And you can actually take a couple of layers of sticker paper, but you take a sticker paper and you print this out on it. The file is in there. I don't know if I have the JPEG in there now. I'll make a JPEG. But you can print this out on sticker paper, full page sticker paper, and then you can put it on top of another piece of full page sticker paper, and do like 3 of them. Get your thickness up, and then you can stick that right onto this, and it'll stick in there. But make this hole smaller so that it fits the diameter of this 5-way here, and then that's going to make sure that you don't have to, but I would, but that's because I'm anal. So that's what we're going to look like here. And once we put our switches in, it's our switches, they're going to hold the faceplate on. So there's no glue on here or anything. It's just the switches themselves that are holding that in place. These switches I got from Granger. You can get them from of course, Amazon. You can get them with the full body. These are the full body switches. They make them with smaller body, the micro body. But I mean, just whatever you decide you want to do, you can do that. And then you'll take your hat. Well, that hat doesn't fit on there. The hat that's in the Thingiverse file. It has a square plug, and you just put some hot glue or super glue in there, and you'll just put that on there, and that'll give you your hat switch. All right. Like I said, this wasn't going to be a full video because I have other projects that I'm working on right now, but I wanted you guys to have this. So there's our switch there. This little tab that's on the back here, that's actually another little micro switch. So you get these little micro switch, so 6mm micro switch. That's going to fit on that tab. Oops. And that's going to glue down. Of course, you just use your connectors, your terminal connectors on there. But that's going to glue, and it sets into place there. It sets into place here on that little tab like that. And that's our starter handle switch. And our starter handle is really simple. It goes in the back cover. All right. So there's our starter handle switch, and there's the back cover. And so this is going to lock in there. You might want to sand this down a little bit because the way it printed, it's, you can feel the little roughness. I think I sanded mine down. Just took a piece of sandpaper, just sanded either side just to make it smooth, so it went in here and fit in there well. And then we use the on this we use the same pins. I think, yeah, we use the same pins here to go through here because there's a hole through these things here, and so this will push through, and that'll. I don't think I haven't done anything to this. I still have the plastic from the support in there. That'll go through there. This will go through the hole, and so when this cover goes on and is screwed in place, it will then of course work that starter switch in the back. All right, we're using the same screws. We're using the same 2x10 screws around the outside. 1, 2, 3. I'm using a Teensy board for this. I'm using the Teensy board because I was able to go in and change. I got a PID or VID. I'm sorry, vendor ID. You can apply for a vendor ID for certain types of boards. I think Pro Micro or Micro. You can, and so I did. So 5261 is the vendor ID for the collective. And then what I was able to do, I was able to go in and change the name so that it comes up as Simple Controls, which is what I'm calling myself anyhow. Simple Controls Huey, and then Simple Controls Kiowa, and then Simple Controls Apache. So the controller goes into the head. Every time I switch the head, it changes, so I can have different configurations. When I plug it in, it recognizes that device. So if you're flying the Huey in DCS, you're like, oh, I want to fly the Kiowa. I'll spin this off, spin the other one on, boom, it recognizes it, and you've already configured the Kiowa to work with the Kiowa. So it's just that simple to swap heads, and the configuration goes with the head. I will find some way to upload that file. It's actually I actually made some changes to the file so it just shows up as a joystick, because Teensy does joystick, mouse, and keyboard, but I didn't want it to show up as a mouse and a keyboard and a joystick. I just wanted it to show up as a joystick. So I went in and I modified some of the files and changed the names. And you can change the name. I'll show you where to change the name. You can change the name to, you can take, this is my collective, but I just put that in there so that I know when I plug in my stuff that I know what head I've got on there and that it's functioning correctly. So these 8 wires are gonna plug into your board. You're gonna just put on terminals. Again, you can put terminals on. The Teensy board does not have terminals, but you can of course solder in terminals into them. There's too many videos for me to even go into that. For you guys to know how to do that. Put terminals in, so these will just plug into the board. Plug these 8 into the board. And the switches all had blade connectors. Depending on what kind of switch you have, you might have blade connectors. Like on my switches, all my switches, I have full side blade connectors. So I put blade terminals with wires going to each of the switches, and then put terminals on them so they plug into the Teensy board. And then everything's just going to plug into the board. You'll make these short enough to where, once you get your switches and you decide you want the full size bodies or the micro bodies, see how much room you have in there, and then you're just going to put your Teensy board in here. Set that down in there. I used a large diameter piece of heat shrink that once I slid over because this was all connectors. I slid over the wires, and then plugged everything in, and then slid it back over, and so that way it was protected from anything shorting out on any of the bodies of the switches or anything. So that's pretty much it. If you have more questions about this part, you can ask me, but it should be, it's pretty straightforward, pretty simple. You guys should be able to go from this to this in just a few hours. All right? And then this will be, like I said, this was put on hold for the time being until I finish my force feedback stuff. And then I don't think I have anything else to build, so I'll probably get back on this. If you have any questions, put them in the comments. I will try to get a parts list as best I can. A lot of these switches I bought 10 years ago, and they've been sitting in a box. So I'll try to get a parts list up for you. Y'all have a good day. See ya.